Today, somewhere on Earth sets sail for the Sunda Islands in Indonesia, the land of 17,000 islands. It's a rugged territory of water, mountains, and volcanoes, where the heart of this vast archipelago beats. Thomas lives in eastern Indonesia on Sumba, an island that is a world of its own, where they practice ancestor worship. It's one of the last megalithic civilizations on Earth. They entomb their dead in dolmens, the eternal resting place of the Sumba Islanders. Made is a fisherman in Bali, the land of the gods. Religion and the ocean are the cornerstones of his life. Made is passing on to his children his love of nature, the sea, and the jukungs, the traditional Indonesian outrigger canoes. Alain has been living in Java for 35 years. An animal photographer, his life changed when he left France for the Sunda Islands. Alain wanted to live close to the last remaining Javan rhinos, and he has become one of their most ardent defenders.
I love this place. I'd like to spend the rest of my life here, far from civilization, in harmony with nature. I couldn't ask for anything more.
Sumba, in the eastern part of Indonesia, is one of the lesser Sunda Islands. There are still a number of gray areas concerning the islanders' ancestral traditions. According to history, the first settlers arrived on Sumba around 2000 BC. Thomas lives in Waingapu, where the dying waves of the Indian Ocean wash up onto the shore. He's preparing for the ceremony of Tarik Batu, the hauling of a stone slab intended for the family tomb. Sumba is the last spot on Earth where people erect tombs in the form of dolmens. It's a megalithic culture. Through ancestor worship, the living consecrate their lives to honoring the dead.
We know that after death, the soul enters Marapu, the paradise of the ancestors. This tomb is very old, more than 1,000 years. A long time ago, the village was clustered around these tombs, but with the erosion and the tsunami, they had to move. So the village is much further inland now. All that you see here used to be forest.
Before undertaking anything, there are rituals, sacrifices, and prayers. Every ceremony starts by asking for the protection of the spirits. In the Marapu religion, everything that is visible has its invisible counterpart. What we cannot see is the soul of the ancestors. It is everywhere.
This is the sledge we'll use to transport my family's tombstone. I'm not allowed to take part in the procession because it's my stone. Everyone else does the work for me. Everything is ready for the Tarik Batu ceremony. We just have to finish up the sledge. Then we'll be able to haul the stone slab up to the village.
For centuries, The souls of the ancestors and the mystery of their tombs have hovered over the island of Sumba. For Thomas, the big day is coming up. The beach of Wainyapu will resound with the enthusiastic shouts of the crowd and the masters of ceremonies of the Tarik Batu. A few meters from the beach, we see the quarry where the men are cutting the limestone. The stone slab will serve as the cover for Thomas's family tomb. The clan of stonecutters has been working on it for a month already.
The stone is ready, but there's still a lot of hard work to be done. We have to be strong because if we weaken, we won't achieve anything. We all have to have an iron determination to carry out the task that's facing us.
The large houses of Sumba are home to both the living and the dead. The tall peaked roof can reach 15 meters in height. It is the dwelling place of the Marapu, the spirit of the ancestors. The roof is the frontier between the real world and the invisible world. In each clan, the Marapu ensures the cosmic link between God and the community. On the peak of the roof are two wooden sculptures representing the man and the woman of the family. Wainyapu, Thomas's village, counts around 30 houses and 250 dolmen tombs. Here, the souls of the deceased protect the living.
Our houses are where we live now, whereas the tombs are where we go once we're dead. The tombs form an arc in the center of the village. They're like a chain. The houses and the tombs are interconnected. The stone that I'm bringing will become a link in that chain.
Thomas is expecting about 100 people for the celebration of the Tarik Batu. They'll come from the neighboring villages.
The preparation for the ceremony is a heavy responsibility for me. It's a point of honor. While we're still alive, we do everything we can in this world so that our final resting place will be ready. Constructing a tomb demands a lot of sacrifice. It's our eternal home on earth.
Keluarga kami.
Hello. I just dropped by to make sure you'll be coming to help us on Saturday.
Thomas has to make sure that everyone will be present on the big day. He also wants to let them know that everything is ready. According to tradition, he has to feed the participants and their family for 2 days as a sign of gratitude. The Marapu philosophy is based on the equilibrium of the world and life. The balance between what can be seen and the imperceptible has to be perfect, like the harmony between the sun and the moon. The most delicate operation is tilting the stone slab. It weighs 3 tons. The stone is brittle and could break at any moment.
Bagus.
It all went very well.
Tidak ada masalah.
No, there were no problems.
Tidak ada masalah.
That's great. Now we'll all be able to haul the stone.
The shouts of the mistress of ceremonies galvanize the collective energy. She is the keeper of the ancestral knowledge and transmits her spiritual force. The stone has been hauled out of the quarry, and now they have to position it on the wooden sledge. The first phase of the operation has been successfully carried out. Now the sledge and stone have to be hauled to the foot of the hill where Thomas's village is perched. Sumba is a rebellious, indomitable island. The traditions have survived here better than in other parts of Indonesia. The islands have always been wary of foreign incursions, Arab merchants, Javanese slave traders, and Dutch colonizers. Sumba has a warrior spirit. In the middle of the 20th century, the island was still gripped by intestinal wars between rival clans of headhunters.
We're stopping because we've reached the foot of the village and it goes up from here. Once we're on top, we'll be able to take a rest. The stone is very heavy. We'll take a little break here, then we'll get back to work.
Batu ini berat.
We're all very proud. This is a great day for all of us.
Tomas's house in the village is still calm, but the whole family has been hard at work for several days. Marta, his wife, has to prepare hundreds of meals, enough for the many guests. In Sumba, Indonesia's poorest island, the construction of a tomb is a once-in-a-lifetime event.
A lot of people will be coming to our house. I have to cook for everyone. I'm preparing rice, pork, tobacco, coffee, and betel nut. It's the tradition here in Sumba.
This is the final phase. They've succeeded in hauling the stone to the center of the village. Now they'll raise it up with the scaffold before sliding it onto the tomb. The technique has remained unchanged for ages. Strength lies in numbers. For thousands of years, people throughout the world have been building this way.
Okay, it's done. The job's finished. Everybody's happy, and me too. It was very tiring to transport the stone, but we reached our goal. This will be the resting place for my family and me when we pass away.
Here, on the edge of the Indian Ocean, Thomas now possesses the strange force that impels him towards the invisible world of the spirits. Bali is the land of the gods. It's the only Hinduist island of the entire Indonesian archipelago. They say that this volcano, Mount Agung, is the center of the world. This sacred mountain with its 3,000-meter peak is the home of the gods. Mount Agung last erupted in the 1960s. When the volcano awoke that time, it took the lives of over 1,000 people, and 100,000 others had to be evacuated. The Balinese have always attributed magical powers to this mountain. The Hindu religion is the basis of the Balinese society. On the island, spirituality creates harmony, and all the inhabitants are connected by this invisible celestial link. Made is 35 years old. He's a fisherman on the north coast of the island. The sea and the mountain are the marrow of his life. He has come here to Mount Agung with his family to meditate and to ask the blessings of the spirits. In a few days, Made will start the fishing season for the mai, a determined hunt for the royal fish of the tropics, a rare and highly coveted prize.
Kiri kanan, kulihat saja banyak pohon cemara.
Before heading back down to the sea, Made stops by a friend's place to help him with his rice fields. In Bali, there's an ancestral system of cooperation by which each person may help the community. This is how, over more than 1,000 years, the Balinese have sculpted their island's landscapes. Some of the world's most beautiful rice fields are to be found here in Bali.
Semuanya di sini berperan di
Everyone has their role here.
keluarga kita semuanya.
The children, the women, the men, we all help each other.
Juga berperan di sini.
We call that gotong royong.
Gotong royong. Istilahnya semua orang.
Anyone who has a rice field can come help us, and we, of course, return the favor.
Ya. Biasanya orang kalau
When we come here, we empty our mind. We're far from the noisy bustle of the city. We forget everything else. It's a wonderful feeling.
Semua kepenatan yang ada di pikiran Anda. Jalan saya sudah ketemukan dan saya sudah.
I have found my path. I've learned a lot from life. I've done many different kinds of work.
Keluarga saya, tentunya pada anak
I
saya.
hope that my children will be able to learn more than me,
Nantinya biar dia bisa mempelajari lebih.
that they'll be able to be free, not dependent on others.
Dan tidak
I'd really like for them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet.
harus berdiri dengan dia sendiri.
This morning, Made drops in on his father. He has come to get some bamboo to make a mast for his children's outrigger canoe.
Itu bengkot nih tuh. Kauhan nih. Bagus, ini adalah bagus ya.
This one's good.
Ini untuk nanti
It should make a good mast.
pengiling namanya. Karena saya mau anak saya seperti saya mau.
I want my children to follow in my footsteps. It's important for them to learn how to sail. I'd like them to love the sea and fishing. Now I'll be able to make a mast with these bamboo poles. I prefer that the children use a sail when they're out on the boat. They already like sailing, and I like going out on the jukung too. They often come out fishing with me.
Banyak kali dengan saya. Ini. Oh. Ini udah dilangsung.
I've been going out on the boat for 2 years now, out to sea like my dad. I want to be a fisherman.
Tapi dia juga masih sekolah. Tidak harus
He's still in school and doesn't spend all his time out on the boat.
sampingan saja
He has to keep going to school.
dengan sekolahnya.
Made is transmitting his passion to his 3 children. He's built them a little jukung, a 3-meter outrigger canoe.
Di sana dulu. Coba mau ke sana. Sekarang mau coba.
We just finished the sail.
Coba berlayar sekarang. Ya.
Wayne's going to try it out. Right, Wayne?
Sangat senang. Dia sangat senang.
Look at them. They're happy.
Untuk dia nanti mencoba untuk memancing.
Later, they'll be able to practice fishing, catch mackerel, dorado, all sorts of fish.
Yang lain-lain mungkin
They'll be able to learn the fishing profession. It's just great.
These Indonesian outrigger canoes have been sailing the Sunda Islands, the Banda and Molucca seas for over 2,000 years. They have different names in different parts of this vast archipelago, but they are always simple and efficient craft. These double outrigger sailing canoes were used in the early migrations from the Indian Ocean to populate Australia and the Pacific. In this part of the world, the impact of these Aboriginal boats was as important as the discovery of the wheel. The Balinese seafarers on board their jukungs are the heirs to an age-old maritime tradition.
ini adalah suatu kebanggaan.
There are many religions and ethnic communities in Indonesia.
Beragam-ragam,
It's a source of pride for us.
beragam suku.
When we speak of our own country, we call it Tanah Air Kita,
Menyebut tanah air kita itu
Our
adalah
land,
semua dari tanah
our water.
sampai ke air.
From the land to the water, it's our homeland.
Dan kita yang
We work the land and the sea, we shape it, and we protect it.
tempat-tempat yang sangat elok dan bagus.
There are still many beautiful unspoiled spots here, many places where nature is rich,
Tempat untuk
places to rest, like this one.
rekreasi atau berkunjung ke tempat-tempat yang
That's our country,
itulah namanya
Tanah Air
kita
Kita,
yang
land and
sangat
water.
subur,
This is our riches.
alam yang ada semuanya.
Soon the rainy season will end in Bali, and the fishing season will begin for the mahi-mahi, the dorado, the choice fish for Made and all the other fishermen of the island. Perhaps the delicate curls of incense smoke this morning are the sign of a good catch. With his line or with his kite, Made can track the mahi-mahi for hours.
Ini kita ada sebuah
I bait the hook on the end of the line with a squid called chumi chumi.
kalau di Indonesia ini Balinese cumi-cumi. Kita pakai cumi-cumi.
The kite makes the squid bounce around on the surface of the water, and that attracts the fish.
Loncat-loncat. Ikan akan tertarik
If they're feeding,
menuju ke
they'll go for the squid.
makan ikan ini. Ini tidaklah mudah. Ini sangat
It's not easy to fish with a kite.
orang-orang tidak
You have to apply yourself to learn otherwise.
dia tidak bisa
You'll never be able to do kite fishing.
layang-layang seperti ini. Sangat susah sekali.
Hey, dolphins!
Jukung adalah kita bahannya dari
The
kayu.
jukung is a wooden
Ini
boat.
adalah teman saya.
It's my second companion, right after my wife.
Adalah, tentunya
It's fun.
saya. So, ini adalah teman saya yang kedua.
I
Saya
earn a
bermain
living
dengan
thanks
dia,
to this
saya
boat,
mencari
and I
nafkah
live with
dengan
it.
dia, saya mencari
I
kehidupan.
built it with my own two hands. It's the fruit of my labor, and it's vital for my whole family.
Saya sendiri untuk kehidupan anak dan saya sendiri. Rumah yang bisa saya tinggal.
I can spend entire days out on my jukung,
Mungkin malam,
and even the night
mungkin
sometimes.
bisa saya juga tidur bisa di jukung ini. Ya.
Fishing for mai-mai is a duel. It takes muscle power to win. Today, Made's luck is with him.
Sangat hebat sekali.
This is an amazing fish. We fought it for 15 minutes, but he eventually gave up.
Dia sudah mau gini sekarang.
I'll put him now down in the bottom of the boat and try to catch some more.
Mau lepas ini. Yeay, mancing mana? Dapat satu lagi. Bagus. Ada. Ini adalah bisikan yang paling kuat.
Deep down, I feel I've been very lucky. I had a feeling this morning. I thought I'd catch something today, and it happened. It's a very good fish.
Ini adalah ikan yang sangat cantik.
Here in Bali, we call it tompek.
Ini namanya lamedak tompek.
The sea has been generous. Made has come back with 4 mai-mai, a very good catch for him. This morning on the island of the gods, the spirits have kept their promise. This is the refuge of one of the most mysterious animals and the rarest land mammal on Earth. In the western part of the island of Java, the Ujung Kulon National Park is the sanctuary of the last remaining Javan rhinoceros. Alain was a zookeeper back in France in the 1970s. But when you're 20, it's hard to resist the call of adventure. Alain dreamed of living in the tropical forest and seeing the big animals of Asia in the wild, not in a cage. So one fine day in 1975, he took off to Indonesia and became an animal photographer.
It was a childhood dream. Often the people who become photographers can do it because they're well off. But I started from scratch. To begin as a zookeeper shoveling rhino dung and end up as a photographer, I've been pretty lucky.
Alain is headed into the heart of Ujung Kulon, a peninsula that juts into the Sunda Strait. He's with his old partner, Sarija, a former forest ranger and an excellent guide. These two have known each other for 30 years. Together, they tracked down the king of the forest. Alain is one of the world's only photographers to capture the Javan rhino, an endangered species. They'll pass the night in the forest ranger's lodge. They're going to hook up with a patrol of rangers who are also tracking the rhinos.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
We'd like to go to the Sigenter River. We'll go through here, and then we'll head up this way. Sarija knows his way around. There's a lot of rhinos in that area, but it's really vast. I brought Sarija along. He couldn't stay away.
Right. I'm glad to see him. He taught me a lot. He's the best.
The park rangers estimate that there are a little over 50 rhinos left. The number has been growing over the past few years due to a drop in poaching, but above all, thanks to a number of births. Every month, the rangers come to collect the images from the cameras placed in different points throughout the forest.
Here, we have what we call a wallow, where the rhinos come to bathe and roll around in the mud to get rid of their parasites. An ideal place to set up their cameras. They're sure to pick up a sighting at least once a month. We didn't have cameras before. Now we have a better idea of where they are, and it's much easier to spot them. The rangers don't care about seeing them. They just want to get them on camera, whereas we want to see them in the flesh. It's so much more exciting. I'd always wanted to come to Ujung Kulon and try to photograph the Javan rhinos. And over the years, I fell in love with this place, with the animals and rhinos as well. I've realized that I'm extremely lucky to be able to see and photograph them. It's really a privilege for me to be a part of this place.
When I was working at Ujung Kulon, the main thing for me was protecting the rhinoceros. This is the last spot in Indonesia where there are still Javan rhinos. They're protected here. It's a sanctuary, and the whole world is watching us. I really love these animals, and I'm always afraid that they'll disappear. I'm obsessed with them. I think about them all the time.
Sarija knows this forest like the back of his hand. So with him, I have the best chances of spotting the most interesting animals.
Look, fresh rhino tracks. No more than 3 days old. It rained, so they're not very clear. They're heading in that direction. Let's follow them. Look, that mark was made by a rhino's head.
The rhino is a harmless animal, but they're cursed with a horn that's worth twice its weight in gold, so they're killed. They're killed in Africa. They're killed in Asia. Here we've managed to stabilize the population, but you never know. One day or another, with a sudden change of regime, people could come with machine guns and could all of a sudden kill them off. It could happen. Just this one small population of rhinos, that's all that's left. And it would be easy to wipe them out.
The national park is not only the realm of the rhinos. It's a sanctuary for all sorts of animals that have found a haven from man here. Over the years, Alain has become an ardent defender of the rhinos. He has spent years exploring this forest. Now he knows Ujung Kulon better than anyone else.
C'est vraiment un privilège de pouvoir être là, oui.
It's really a privilege to be here. I've been really lucky to be able to photograph the rhinos, and I don't think many people have been able to do that. I feel really privileged, and I'd still like to see a few more.
The only way to get to the rhinos' territory is by boat. Each outing is an expedition. Alain and Sarija are now headed for the mouth of the Sigente River in the middle of the park. The Sigente River allows them to slip silently through the jungle. Alain also knows it's a passage used by the rhinos.
One day there was a little stream off the river, and we heard something in the water. We waited a moment. I'd heard that noise before, and then I saw a rhino come out. You have to keep all your senses alert. Listen for the noises. Try to catch the odors, because when a rhino is close by, you can smell it. Its scent. At first, it was always a very intense moment when I would see one. My heart would start pounding. I'd tremble a bit. Now I've seen them often enough to take it more calmly. That's why I managed to photograph them without getting too worked up. It's still a very intense moment because you're there facing an animal that no one usually sees.
Ujung Kulon is the one place where the few remaining Javan rhinos live. These incredible animals, straight out of another age. Everywhere else in Asia, they have been killed off for their horn. Thanks to his photos, Alain is doing his part toward the protection of these last kings of the Javan forest, the rhinoceros of the Sunda Islands. This evening, Sarija is thanking the spirits of the forest. He's also praying to continue his close relationship with nature for a long time to come.
When I look at the rhinos, I feel as if I were part of their family. I've always loved to observe them. Before, I had no one to share that with. And then I met Alan, and he was just as enthusiastic as me. It's always been a great pleasure to observe the rhinos with him. We have the same passion. We're like an old couple, the two of us.
I always call on him because I like to have him along. He's helped me so much, and I'll never forget that. He's part of my life. For me, the rhinos are everything. I've managed to photograph them, and that's thanks to him. Today we managed to get so close. Then the rhino calmly went on his way. So beautiful.
New Caledonia is an extraordinary strip of land surrounded by long barrier reefs and the unfathomable Pacific Ocean. Its vast lagoon holds a wealth of secrets waiting to be discovered. Scientists in Numia are studying the behavior of sharks. These kings of the ocean are indispensable to the equilibrium of the underwater world.
Yes, bien joué les gars. Excellent.
Soaring over the world's most beautiful lagoons and discovering the wide open spaces of this land. On the main island of Grande Terre, adventure is waiting for those who dare to live out their dreams. Lifu in the Loyalty Islands promises a voyage back in time to a world steeped in Kanak legends and deeply rooted traditions. Exploring Lifu in the Loyalty Islands means plunging into Melanesian culture in search of a lost age and getting a glimpse of the invisible spirit of the Kanaks. Marcel Lapachas is a child of the Jokin tribe.
Jokin, ça veut dire zo.
Jokin is Jo,
C'est la lance.
meaning spear, and Keen, meaning key.
Toi, tu es la lance. Quand tu
So,
rentres ici,
you're the spear.
bon, t'es la lance. Tu rentres, t'arrives.
When you come here, you arrive. You walk around a bit,
Quand tu fais une connerie,
you do as you please, but when you mess up,
ben, t'auras
you'll need a
besoin
key to get out of the tribe.
pour sortir de la tribu. Ben moi, voilà.
So,
Peut-être moi, je saurais ta clé.
I'll be your key,
Moi qui va te-
and I'll show you the way out.
qui va te diriger vers la
That's
sortie.
what Jokin means.
C'est ça un peu la signification de Jokin. Voilà.
There are not many beaches around the island, but there are coral reefs. They're a living treasure, and everyone here watches over them. Marcel protects his fishing spots, his underwater garden where he harvests what he needs: fish, lobster, giant clams.
I was born on Lifu. I'm not a little chief. I'm not a big chief. No. I'm just myself. No frills or anything. I keep it simple. Nature here is generous here on Lifu. Nobody is dying of hunger. We have nature. All you have to do is go out and serve yourself.
La terre, elle est importante pour le Kanak parce qu'il a sa terre.
This is my land. The Kanak has his land. He doesn't need to go anywhere else. This is how I see things. I never felt the need to live anywhere else. I've always lived here. I made my choice. Hey, the court's over here.
It's summer in the South Pacific. During the school vacations, Marcel's nieces and nephews, who live in Nouméa, an hour and a half away by plane, come to Lifu. So every summer, a dozen or so kids invade Uncle Marcel's house of happiness. It's also called the Beau Coin, the nice spot.
You see, we never get bored here. Ever since we were kids. Beau Coin is the name my father gave the house when he laid the first stone to build it.
They're preparing a family event away from prying eyes. Marcel wants to teach the children the secrets of making a bunya, a traditional Melanesian dish. Everyone pitches in with the preparation. They gather the ingredients, prepare the fire, choose the right banana leaves. Bunya is made with chicken, fish, and even bats. It's a traditional dish, rich with symbolism.
These are the first leaves you have to place in the bunya. You have to heat them to soften them up. As the children are here with us for the vacation, we'll take this opportunity to teach them how to cook bunya. Then they can eat it afterwards.
In front of the hut, everyone is working to make this event a solemn occasion. Bunya plays an important role in the social cohesion between the generations.
The family, the tribe's communal life, it's very important. We're always together in everyday life. And there may be some tension, sure, but the family, it's always the family.
The basis of this emblematic dish is the yam, a symbol of honor and respect. The yam plays a role in the founding myth of Melanesian society. According to a Kanak legend, at the beginning of the world, the moon tossed a yam cake wrapped in banana leaves into the ocean. And this gave birth to Tea Kanake, the first man. Tea Kanake asked the spirits to teach him how to survive on Earth. Thus man learned the secrets of nature and the magic of stones and plants. Ever since, man has been farming the land, and the yam has remained an important symbol in Kanak society. This story, handed down through the ages, is what binds the Melanesians to their land.
The tribe lives here, on the edge of the cliffs. We have the cliffs, we have the sunset, we have it all. This is why I stay here, in my home as well, where I live with my wife and children. That's what keeps me here. Here we say, I mind the house.
On dit, je garde la maison, voilà, c'est ça.
Every day in the late afternoon, Marcel heads into the forest to work his land or set traps for coconut crabs.
If it rains tonight, we'll go out. They come out when it rains. They don't like it if it's too dry, if there's no rain.
Marcel is spitting bits of coconut meat all around the trap, a simple but very efficient way of chumming for crabs.
We turn the coconut with the hole facing down, okay? So when the crab comes, it's not going to be easy for him to eat. It's going to take some time. We make it hard for the crab by putting the opening, you see, underneath.
Now we just hope that the humidity and the smell of the coconut draw the crabs out of their holes. When night falls, Marcel checks his trap lines, just like a fur trapper.
Look, this trap here, it has a crab on it. But it's not very big. You see, they get a lot bigger than that. It takes a lot of force to try to pry them off. This one is, it's average size. Here are the claws, and the mouth between the two claws. And it uses these smaller claws here, you see, to scrape out the coconut meat through the hole we made and carry it to its mouth. It can break anything, pierce your skin and flesh, and then even crush your bones, even your fingers. Even my wrist. If it manages to grab my wrist, he can break it. That's for sure. But that's the more bigger ones.
There are no streams or rivers on Lifu. To get fresh water, the islanders have to climb down to an amazing reservoir of crystal clear water. The caves of Lifu are ritual sites. Some are connected to the ocean, and they are mostly unexplored. Marcel is going to enter the Ranono grotto. Angel, a member of the site's caretaker clan, is guiding him. the site is taboo. To enter, one must pay homage to the spirits of the ancestors.
The two stones here symbolize two women, the invisible spirits. You have to perform the ritual gesture. Angèle told me to deposit leaves and stones to request the protection of the two guardians of the cave. So that's why we perform the ritual gesture. It's a sign of respect. In performing the ritual, we feel their presence. It's moving.
20 meters beneath the forest floor, the entrance to the grotto is nearly invisible. For generations, the members of Angèle's tribe have been coming here to draw their drinking water. These reservoirs are fed by rainwater that seeps down through the porous limestone soil. This geological feature of Lifu has allowed people to settle permanently in the Loyalty Islands by providing them with a source of fresh water. In these huge hollows, nature and time have sculpted underwater cathedrals and created these eerie, surreal landscapes. In New Caledonia, everyone respects the taboo sites and the sacred spirit of the ancestors. The traditions and practices are transmitted in secret by word of mouth in the chief's longhouses.
The tribe is the heart of life here. Yes, there are other lives, other worlds, beyond the horizon. But I like it here, within the tribe. I have no regrets, and that's how life is. This is my life. I'm at home in my tribe. And that's pretty cool.
The island of Lifu is steeped in the Kanak spirit. Coming here is an encounter with the Melanesian soul and the free, generous beings that live here, like Marcel Lapachas, a man indispensable to the happiness of his family and all the children of the Jokin tribe. From Marcel's tribe in the Loyalty Islands to the lost valleys of Grande Terre, it's a 2-hour flight that transports us into another world. The center of the main island is a territory of mountains, forgotten forests, and inaccessible rivers. This is an island still tinged with adventure. Oana LaRue seems like she's running on pure adrenaline. She could have been Californian or Australian if her grandfather hadn't decided to settle in New Caledonia in the 1970s. The entire family has stayed ever since. This horsewoman is a student in Noumea. Whenever she gets the opportunity, she leaves the city to go galloping with Mina, her trusty mare.
This is where I was born and raised, so of course I'm right at home here. I really can't picture myself living anywhere else. You never know what the future has in store for you, but I think it would be hard for me to leave Caledonia for good. This is how I want to live my life, doing what I want, when I want, and not having to answer to anyone.
The inland territory on the main island is called La Brousse, the bush. Most of the people who live there, the Broussards, are descendants of the early French colonists, the Caldoches. Oana is quite familiar with this world where the myth of the Caledonian Wild West lives on. To satisfy her craving for the extreme, Oana practices free fly, a discipline of free fall. It takes place in the fleeting moments of weightlessness just before opening the parachute. Before every jump, Oana rehearses the figures she's going to execute.
This is a passion to go even further, a desire to test your limits, a desire for an adrenaline rush. It's a number of things. I need all that. All my activities revolve around it. I can't see myself spending an entire day in front of my computer. I need my nature, my freedom. I need my activities. It's very important to me. While we're going up in the plane, if we're doing a jump that's a little new, we'll run through the movements, like when we have to grab onto each other, etc. Then when it's time to jump, we don't think about anything anymore. We know exactly what we have to do. We're completely isolated in our own little bubble. This is quite simply one of the most beautiful spots on Earth. There are not many places where you get to jump over such a stunning landscape. We're really lucky here. It goes very quickly and then you land. But you manage to savor every second of the jump, so it seems to last a long time. That's the magic. It transforms 1 minute into a lasting moment.
En un long moment.
Every person has a favorite element. I feel great up there. I think it's my element. I feel like I'm flying. I feel wonderful. As if I were in total osmosis with the air.
Oana is heading for the west coast and the land of the stockmen, as the Caledonian cattle raisers are known, in reference to the cowboys of nearby Australia. Horseback is a good way to go meet the stockmen.
Hey. Allez. Allez, je suis là.
Cindy Baronet grew up with horses and cattle in a rural environment where children learn to ride at the age of 3. Now Cindy runs the Nemeara farm.
It's something that's in your blood. Our parents and grandparents brought us up in this way of life. And we want to carry it on, to perpetuate it. It's a way of life.
The world of the stockmen has lost nothing of its authenticity. Cindy has 120 hectares of grazing land for her 40-odd head of cattle and horses.
Galop, Biwan. Allez, galop.
Cindy studied ethology, animal behavior. She trains her horses herself.
C'est bien. Galop, galop, galop. Galop, galop. Galop. Allez, tourne, tourne. Galop. Oh là! Oh là là, le moindre petit...
The slightest movement has meaning for her. In my position, if I move towards her, she'll gallop. If I move back, she slows down. That's how horses communicate amongst themselves, by gestures and body movements. Understanding and reproducing this form of communication is the basis of ethology. It's very interesting because each horse is different. They each have their own personality. They learn slower or faster, so each way of training will be different.
Oana used to do competitive equitation and jumping as well. She and Cindy share the same passion for horses, but in very different activities.
This is the heartland of New Caledonia. The ranch, the training corral, the stockyard, the paddocks, the horses. There's a lot of cattle raising in Caledonia, so of course we need horses. They're an integral part of life here.
Keep driving them, Cindy. I'll go ahead.
In the dust of these parched lands, the two horsewomen have come to help Ghislain Santa Cruz round up part of his herd.
I'm going ahead, okay? Keep them coming.
Santa Cruz is one of Cindy's neighbors. He's something of a local legend and a notorious loudmouth. He has a herd of around 1,000 head of cattle, and the iron will that goes along with it.
Bring him this way. No, to the left. To the foot of the hill.
Here, between mountain and lagoon, the drought has not spared his herd.
We're just praying it'll rain. How long can we hold out? All the cows here are calving right now. In a month, I'll have another 300 calves. 300. That's a lot. I remember some years when they'd kill the calves at birth to save the mothers. I really wouldn't want it to get to that point. I'm well enough to be able to feed them, but I have seen years when they'd kill the newborn calves for the sake of the mothers. Well, if everyone does their job, the cows will be well kept, as they say. Oana, let him through. Come on.
In this heat, they have to coax the herd gently, keep the weakened animals from running, and figure out the boss's bellowed orders.
Allez. Hey. Hey.
These are wide open spaces. The idea is to channel the cattle so none of them veer off to the side. It's very tricky. There's a lot of brush and the animals get into it. We don't always see them. I'm used to working with little herds of small, calm cows. This herd is huge, so it's not the same job. It needs several hands. It's not the same work. It's no picnic.
Hey! Allez, allez, vas-y, pousse, ma fille, pousse, pousse, pousse. Allez, 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 allez. Pas trop vite, pas trop vite, pas trop vite, passer derrière. Voilà, question. Allez, 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 allez. Regarde, comme ça, là.
Now watch, there. You see?
T'as vu?
Ah
T'as vu?
ouais, c'est le plus gros.
I'll try with the big one.
La mienne, ça vient le gros. Ah si, mais
Yeah.
elle est forte, la gosse,
This
là.
girl is strong.
There's a lot of testosterone in this business. It's a very, very masculine milieu. As a girl, it's not easy to prove yourself. Cindy really knows what she's doing. She's managed to earn their respect. That's good.
C'est bien.
Oana passed the initiation to Cindy's world, the rough and tumble world of the stockmen. After this taste of Cindy's everyday life, Oana can't wait to get back to the sky and the exhilaration of speed and altitude.
On souffle bien.
Take a deep breath.
On quitte l'avion.
We leave the plane, you maintain your position.
Sentir ce signal.
This morning, it's Oana's turn to invite Cindy into her world. She wants Cindy to share a unique experience, the thrill of a parachute jump over one of the world's most beautiful lagoons, along with their instructor, Maxime.
Tu vois, ça fait 25 kilos.
It's great to turn someone onto a new experience. Afterwards, you take the plunge yourself or not, but I think it's really worth sharing.
The plane has reached an altitude of 4,000 meters. The free fall will last 50 seconds. At close to 200 kilometers per hour, the speed deforms the body and sets your cheeks flapping. It's an intense, fleeting moment of pure, extreme sensations. From the sky or from a hilltop, the view of Cindy and Oana's land down under is breathtaking. A vast expanse of matchless beauty where adventure is never very far away. In New Caledonia, the mountains in the region of the Stockman overlook the immense Barrier Reef, one of the most beautiful in the world. The wealth of underwater life makes the reefs an ideal field of study for marine biologists. These unspoiled reefs are home to large schools of sharks. Germain Boussary, a French marine biologist, has decided to spend his time and energy in the study of shark behavior. Uvea is an isolated parcel of land in the Loyalty Islands. In the tradition of this atoll, the shark is an emblematic sacred animal. It is even the protective totem of several clans on the island. Just the thing to arouse Germain's curiosity. Ever since his childhood in the south of France, he's dreamed of living a life dedicated to the underwater world and the shark, king of the oceans.
Dans l'imaginaire collectif,
For most people, sharks are frightening animals.
qui sont respectés, mais à la fois
They're both respected and feared,
alors que finalement,
whereas they are, in fact, just animals that you have to treat with a lot of respect, because they are, after all, predators. I mean, a shark isn't sad. It's neither cruel nor kind.
gentil,
It's just an animal that feeds on its prey.
va se nourrir de proies. J'aimerais juste montrer à tout le monde.
I would like to show everyone that being afraid of them is not going to protect the sharks. It's by diving with them, going to see them. I think it's something that everyone should get a chance to do.
Découvrir ça, quoi.
In Kanak culture, the land and the sea belong to the tribes. So before undertaking any project in Uvea, Germain must ask permission of the elders of the Muli tribe. The elders here tell that the sharks once saved their ancestors by guiding their pirogues through the reefs. Ever since, anyone who hunts them is cursed with misfortune and disease. Beneath the chief's longhouse of Muli, Germain has come to request permission to approach the sharks. Respecting the custom means humbly asking for the protection of the elders.
En rentrant dans la case,
As I enter the chief's foray here in Muli, I bow before you.
je me abaisse devant vous,
I come with the utmost humility to share with you a very moving personal moment.
venir partager avec vous ce moment qui pour moi est très fort. C'est avec beaucoup d'émotion du coup que je viens vous offrir
I perform this ritual with you with a great deal of emotion.
avec votre accord.
With your permission, we hope to dive and meet these animals on their own territory,
Et finalement,
to deepen our knowledge of them in a habitat where they are truly protected and have thus maintained their natural behavior.
et donc on pourra noter et essayer de comprendre.
There we can take notes and attempt to understand why we humans have such a great impact on sharks.
Sur ces requins.
You have things to do. If you can call on the inhabitants of Muli, you will be able to do these things. The door is open to you.
An exchange of words and an exchange of gifts. Germain has gained access to the ritual path.
You are welcome here. Thank you.
In his 6 months living here in New Caledonia, Germain has been discovering the riches of the Kanak culture. The island of Uvea is located on the edge of the Coral Sea. It's home to large schools of sharks. Germain has come to this remote corner of the Pacific to dive with these great predators.
This is going to be a great dive. Look, there. You see, just below the surface? Wonderful. Another one. And there's a younger one. Look at the big one.
He has to see you.
Marino is a native son of Uvea and an excellent diver. He has agreed to show us his secret spots that are literally swimming with sharks.
Be a shark.
Germain is going to profit from Marino's experience. The young scientist is very concentrated. He's getting ready for an encounter like no other in the animal world.
I felt so small in the midst of those sharks. It really hits you in a moment like that. They're really the lords of the sea. When you're in the middle of 20 or 30 sharks, you have a certain respect. They're curious. They come over to take a look at you. You're something new for them. I tried to disappear down there. I felt good. I forgot everything. Time, gravity. Down there with those sharks circling me. I tried to put myself in their place, to understand them, to see how they might react. These are potentially dangerous animals with big sharp teeth, so of course they frighten kids and everybody else. But in the end, they're magnificent, harmless animals when you enter their habitat, when you go down to observe them. As you get to know them, you realize that they are just living beings and have no interest in humans.
Germain, like all scientists, knows that it is urgent to protect sharks. They are one of the ocean's most vulnerable and endangered species. In New Caledonia's Coral Sea Natural Park, shark fishing has been totally prohibited since 2013.
We have to remember that these animals merely tolerate us in the oceans, in the lagoon. They're the lords of the sea, and they call the shots down there.
Moi, je pars du principe que pour les observer,
I work on the principle that to observe them,
un petit peu rentrer en dialogue avec
to establish a dialogue with them, I have to assume a neutral approach,
un état neutre, une approche neutre, et
to do nothing unnatural to provoke an interaction with them.
Pour interagir avec eux de manière non naturelle.
Germain has always dreamed of traveling, of adventure and science. This morning he's leaving Uvea to go to Nouméa on Grande Terre, the main island. The young 24-year-old scientist is beginning his marine biology thesis on sharks and has recently joined the APEX project, an ambitious undertaking of the New Caledonia's Institute of Research and Development, the IRD. The IRD researchers have proven that the shark population around the inhabited areas of New Caledonia has dropped by 90%, with dramatic consequences on the reefs, as well as for the future of the oceans. In this remote corner of the world, a team of scientists is working to prove that man influences the behavior of sharks, which are indispensable for the equilibrium of the oceans. This is the goal of the oceanographic mission to which Germain is wholly committed. A 3-hour boat trip to the south is the Amédée Lighthouse. Today's mission is to catch and release gray or white-pointed sharks. For a year now, the IRD team has been carrying out regular missions at sea in order to implant sharks with radio tags and take samples of their DNA.
Note down the tag number, 57786.
This technique will allow the scientists to track the sharks from a distance. They've already tagged about 100 specimens with this radio device, but in areas quite far from human activity. As they make new captures closer to Nouméa, they'll be able to cross-reference the data that they've gathered.
We know that if the sharks disappear from New Caledonia's lagoon, the biodiversity will drop, as will the productivity of the fish. So, of course, the coral will not be as beautiful. All the fishermen who have been to those remote areas say that in a spot where there are fish, there will be a lot of sharks. That's a normal situation for an ecosystem, a lot of sharks. If the sharks disappear, then it all disappears. If we want to preserve the vast lagoon with all its riches, we have to try to preserve the sharks.
Ok. Tu me dis, on est bon?
We okay? Let's go.
Allez, c'est parti. Allez, on croise les doigts.
Like all fishermen, the scientists need a good dose of patience.
This is the first time we're fishing in a zone so close to human activity. We've been here for 2 hours. I think we could be here all day. I hope we get at least one. That's how it is. When we go out to virgin territory, we throw in the line and in 30 seconds we get a shark. We release it and 5 minutes later we catch another one. Here we go. Wait, wait.
Ok, ben là, ça y est, ça mord. Donc on a un petit requin.
We got a hit. We hooked into a little shark. He's not tugging too hard. We'll go as fast as we can so as not to hurt him. We have to go quickly. Now we'll ease him into the harness, take all our samples, then let him go. Good news. We've been out here for 3 hours and this is our first fish.
The shark is putting up a fight. The operation has to be done quickly. They mustn't tire the shark.
Ah, sympa. Allez, mon beau. Ok. Ok, on est bon, on est bon, on est bon.
Okay, we're good here. We've got him.
Oh, il est beau, là. Oui, c'est un beau.
It's a tricky moment for the shark, immobilized at the surface of the water. Germain has only a few minutes to measure the fish and take his blood and DNA samples. Then he has to make the incision to implant the radio tag.
A little to starboard. That will give him some oxygen. He's okay there. He won't feel a thing on his fin. I'm going to take a little sample.
La nageoire du requin va contenir de l'ADN.
The fin contains DNA. With it, we'll be able to work out the genetic relationship with other sharks we've sampled. We'll learn where they migrate for reproduction. The second bit of fin will allow us to deduce the shark's feeding habits, whether he goes to feed out in the open sea or in the lagoon, etc.
Excellent. Super. OK. J'insère le tag acoustique.
I'm inserting the radio tag.
Tag is placed in the gray shark's belly. It will emit a signal for 4 years. It's time to release the fish without harming it. For Germain, the operation was a success. Each capture is a victory for the scientists, and each release is a very moving moment that gives full meaning to their research.
Great work, guys. Well done. It's an unnatural encounter. We catch the shark, so we have a certain domination over it. I prefer the shark to be underwater, at ease in his own element, and I visit his habitat rather than the other way around. It gives you a kind of adrenaline rush. You have to keep under control to keep working calmly and efficiently. Most important, you mustn't hurt the shark. We're always happy when the shark swims off unharmed.
In a few months, 200 sharks will be equipped with radio tags. The data gathered will be a gold mine of information. It will allow the scientists to determine the maritime zones that need to be preserved as sanctuaries for the sharks. In New Caledonia, the scientific community has given itself 4 years to solve the mystery of the disappearance of the reef sharks, indispensable to the equilibrium of the lagoons.
My dream for the future would be to continue this way of life, to continue protecting the sharks, to observe them, and make people aware that it's possible to live with them, to leave them alone, to let them play their role of predator. I know that in 10 years, I'll still be working with sharks.
Micronesia, one of the least known regions of our planet. Inaccessible islands scattered far and wide in the Pacific and forgotten by the rest of the world. In Pohnpei, Augustine is the solitary sentinel of a cursed city thousands of years old, Nan Madol. Pazan, a tribal chief. He counts his fortune not in gold ingots, but in stone. The island of Yap has an exchange system unlike any other on Earth. Bruce, an inveterate traveler, has dedicated his life to the most isolated islands. Thanks to him, remote villages are being connected with the rest of the world.
This area in the Pacific, the most remote areas on Earth, I think that these areas here are the most undiscovered and the most little known, the vast areas. I think we know more about the moon than we do about this deep ocean waters off of Micronesia.
Flecks of land scattered across a blue background. Micronesia, 2,000 little worlds surrounded by the vast ocean. And just as many distinct cultures, each with its own language, history, and beliefs. The one thing they have in common is the feeling that the Pacific Ocean is their only link with the rest of the universe. Getting to know these lands with their oral culture means allowing oneself to be lulled by the tales of the elders. As we fly over Pohnpei, we skim the surface of the island's mystery. According to the legend, 16 men and women landed on this island after a long, meandering voyage at sea in a great canoe. The 16 voyagers prayed and prayed, and the more they prayed, the more it rained. The tears falling from heaven gave birth to the island's rivers, waterfalls, forests, and animals. That's the miracle of Pohnpei. Its name, Pohnpei, means island born from prayer. Hidden away in the jungle behind a curtain of clouds lies the ruins of a city dating back almost 3,000 years. We have to approach it with an open mind, accepting its enigma, for we know almost nothing about this city. It's a testimony to a vanished civilization, that of the Sodlers, the dynasty reigning here at the time.
And if you look up here, there was something over here built from before.
On this island.
On this
right?
island.
On this island.
But the ocean washed it out.
That's one of the reasons I've been doing this is, we're studying the erosion, we're trying to protect and preserve Nagadol for future generations, and I can see erosion right there.
Yeah, right there on the erosion is because it's closer to the breakers.
That's right. That's right. Wow.
And there's a school of fish out here. Damn.
Oh, wow.
I'm going fishing tomorrow.
Okay. Wow, look at that. My goodness.
There she is. Always amazing.
Augustine is extremely moved as he flies over this strange city built on the water.
So beautiful.
He's state conservator of the site and has dedicated his whole life to it. He is above all the keeper of an enigma. Nan Madol means the spaces between, a reference to the canals that circulate among the 100 or so artificial islets. These spaces give free rein to the imagination and dreams.
Well, this will go down as one of the best trips in my lifetime, that's for sure.
Yeah.
From the sky, Nan Madol is even more mysterious. Its architecture gives us an idea of how amazingly skillful the builders were.
You see the trees and the rocks, and it's like they were placed there together a long time ago. The mangroves and the rocks, they make a unity, There's a composition there, It's amazing, the symmetry of all the buildings, How was it possible, for the architect to build, and the design? They're so, you can see what the straight lines, the canals, everything down there, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, to me, I'm thinking they must have had a plane a long time ago, and the engineer was up in the sky and then looking down and then directing everybody because everything is in place. I mean, it's just perfect from up here.
And beneath the surface of the ocean, the mystery thickens. Certain legends suggest that Nan Madol is the entryway to an even more magnificent city lying at the bottom of the sea. Jimmy has been looking for proof of its existence for years. He proceeds with caution and respect for the ancients. The strangeness of the spot is not at all reassuring, just the opposite. It takes courage to explore the bowels of this sunken city. Diving here means defying the deep-seated beliefs of the islanders.
We don't know who constructed Nan Madol, how the builders managed it, and in particular how they transported the stones. But the spirits are there, that's for sure. But one mustn't talk about them. The spirits don't like that. They could punish us. In any case, there's magic involved. Maybe that's the answer.
What curses protected the city? What could instill such fear in the local inhabitants that for centuries they refused to go near it? That long-vanished dynasty still has a strong hold on the living, like a clinging veiled shadow. Even today, very few dare profane the sacred territory of Nan Madol. They all fear the cruel vengeance of the spirits.
I think it adds to the mystery of Nan Madol. You know, all this jungle, you know, it's covering here. Because before, you know, nobody was allowed here except if you came here to pay tribute to the chiefs or the Saudalors. You know, so in a way, this jungle is covering, it's like a mystery. It keeps its secrets to itself.
Augustine and Jimmy are both obsessed by these secrets. Too many unanswered questions.
Thousands of years ago, we had people living here. And, you know, walking in their footsteps now, you know, it gives me a sense of pride, knowing that, you know, they were capable of this amazing architecture. And also, I mean, not only the architecture, but you can imagine how many years and how many people it took to build this amazing place. I think what it required then was, you know, a ruler who was really strong to command all the people and, you know, the many years for them to build. So I think at that time, maybe Bombay was centralized. It was unified under one ruler.
The stones are basalt, carefully fit together in these amazing constructions that doggedly continue to resist the ravages of time. Beneath the surface, huge blocks lie scattered around the foot of the massive walls. You can almost hear the hushed murmur of their tale. Gnawed by his desire to understand, Jimmy tirelessly studies these columns that seem to be pointing in a direction. He's searching for some glimmer of truth here, where the undertow is eating away at the stone. The basalt comes from the other side of Pohnpei, many kilometers away. Quarrying the stone from the mountainside, carving it into columns, transporting, then fitting them together, tons and tons of rock were moved with Stone Age tools. Contemplating this colossal work, you catch yourself believing in magic.
Well, for us locals, it's really impressive to imagine how huge blocks of rock like this can be built on top of each other. Especially we know before we don't have any machinery to build this. So locals believe that it was by magic that they were able to put these blocks on top of each other. You can imagine how huge this, I mean, this may weigh probably tons, tons. My theory of it is that they used nature, the natural elements, to build Nantawas. So I think when the tide was high, that's when they lifted the rocks. That's my theory.
Augustine, a solitary sentinel, watches over the site. Yet he is a powerless witness as it slowly disappears. Eroded by the ocean, Nan Madol's days are numbered.
The walls over the years, they've crumbled down, because of time, and the ocean, climate change and everything. And that's what we're trying to protect. We want to see how we can preserve this so people can come and enjoy it and see what it was like before.
The walls still thrust up proudly towards the sky, like a final challenge, and tell the tale of the Sodlers, a nation of inspired builders caught by some fatal surprise, a barbarian invasion, an unknown plague. The outside walls form an arrow, pointing towards where?
And along the walls we found few of the rocks that falling down from the main walls. That's where those pieces of rock that we found today, we bring it for the example of maybe it's part of the rocks or scallop from the main rocks.
Like it's the kind of rock
Augustine and Jimmy often discuss their different theories. Like all the inhabitants of the island, the mystery of Nan Madol is part of their life.
One of the pillars is about 8 or 10 feet long, and the other one is 15 or 16 feet long underwater. And what I hear from the locals, they believe that maybe it's a gateway to the underwater cities.
There are many theories, but like the lost continent, but those are Western theories, As far as we're concerned, we have a city here called Nan Madol, and there's possibly an underwater city that we don't know. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of rocks underneath the water. So Pohnpei, the locals say it's a gateway to some underwater city, but maybe being part of the mystery, nobody has found it yet.
Nobody leaves Nan Madol without falling under the spell of the lost city, symbol of an empire that collapsed suddenly. Why? Only their city remains. A few square kilometers of land lost in the immensity of the ocean. Yap lives forgotten by the rest of the world. Like everywhere else in Micronesia, the extreme isolation has led the inhabitants to invent a system of values and exchange found nowhere else in the world.
Yeah, down and clear. Okay, cool. Roger.
Gliding through the transparent waters of the lagoon, we encounter the mythical manta rays, guardians of a facet of this island's singular history. At the bottom of the ocean lies a veritable treasure. This disk of stone with a hole in the center relates an extraordinary tale, the adventure of intrepid navigators. Everyone on Yap knows this story, for it has been handed down since the dawn of time from generation to generation. Like in the family of Pazan. Pazan is the headman of the village of Toru, the one who transmits the lore of the ancestors. On Yap, nothing is like anywhere else, and no matter. Pazan's family is highly respected on the island, and today is a special day. He wants to share the secrets of his ancestors with his son. So for this ritual, we'll have to go over to the other side of the island. We'll be taking a path that long ago Pazan's own father once showed him. This stone disc, recognizable by its form, is the first step on the path. Pazan's son has to learn its history, for that is what makes it so valuable.
This comes from the high chiefs of this village, and they ask the people to work on the stone path. And so when the road was completed, then the chiefs came in and say thank you to people, and this is one of the stone money they give to my family.
For that's exactly what they are. These stone discs are the equivalent of our gold ingots. There are some 6,000 of them on Yap. They're used to buy land, to build a house, to buy a boat. They are also given to the fiancée by her suitor as a dowry. These stones are the basis of all major transactions, even though the dollar is the currency for everyday purchases.
It's one of the biggest that I have, and that's one. And the second one is because it is gone into competition between the chiefs, so it has a story to tell.
Pazan's authority derives mainly from his ancestral lineage, but it's also based on his heritage. His family owns 21 stones, an impressive number. Thanks to them, his children will be able to assume a respectable position in this island society.
Let's see. It's more like an insurance. You feel safe that you have them. You feel secure in some sense that you have this stone money. And you feel able to participate in the traditional events, competitions, whatever, dancing, things like this, because you feel secure that you can participate into those bigger events that would happen in Yap.
On the scale of the vast Pacific, Yap seems tucked away in a corner of the map, a far-off world that lives completely closed in on itself.
Identity is something very popular now. Everywhere, if I go somewhere, I say I'm from Yap, then people will say, oh, the land of stone money. So it is a very, very obvious identity.
The enormous discs encapsulate the history of Yap. They can weigh up to 15 tons. To move them, the islanders roll them, but the lighter stones can be carried by just 2 men. The island is far from anywhere, so they have to be resourceful with what they have at hand. It's one of the prime rules of life here. The outrigger canoes are necessary for survival. These craft date back to the dawn of history. These great navigators have been using these boats for centuries to escape their isolation. No need for a sextant or compass. The sailors of Yap read the stars.
It doesn't cost fuel, and you travel on a canoe is very, very good. It's very quiet, no engine, no fuel spent. And the materials and everything is from Yap.
In the heart of Taru, Pazan's village, the stone discs, as precious as they are, line the path like a series of landmarks in the islanders' memory. These roads are nothing less than open-air banks.
We have a very big one also. Let's go over and see. It's a very big stone money. This is the biggest one that we have. In the beginning, it came from Palau. People from this village went to Palau and participate in the carving and then bring it to this village, and now we have it here.
Here, there's no gold, no precious gems, no pearls. Just these gigantic discs of aragonite, quarried by raw manpower from a far-off island, Palau, about 250 nautical miles from Yap. It takes days and days at sea to cover such a distance. In order to create a system of exchange centuries ago, the Yap Islanders set out in search of something that didn't exist on their island. They came back from Palau with these stones, and since there was nothing like them on Yap, they were precious. A system of exchange was born.
The value comes from the hardship of obtaining a stone money. First of all, you have to learn navigation, and then obtain the knowledge of building a canoe, and then you build those canoe, and then you have people that trust the navigator that can participate on the sailing, then sail to Palau, which is very hard in those days. It's done with navigating with the stars. Wait. We need his help sometimes.
For hundreds of years, they risked their lives sailing the Pacific. These trips were veritable initiatory voyages. Pazan also made this trip to honor the memory and courage of his ancestors.
They were good sailors and also very good people with big heart to go and do something that generations and generations until us at this moment, we're still very proud of what they've done long time ago.
Those navigators had to face many dangers: storms, high seas, typhoons, and there was always the danger of simply disappearing into the infinite blue expanse. The navigators were equipped with no more than the wisdom of their ancestors, handed down from generation to generation.
At times in the history of Yap, we don't just lose the stonemen, we lose everything. Even the crew and the navigators, everybody, we don't know where they're gone. We lost them all.
These vessels seem ridiculously frail to undertake such an adventure, which is the very cornerstone of the Yap identity. On board these canoes, it's the cohesion of their society that is at stake.
So we have a very poor economy, very small economy, and abandoning the tradition and culture of Yap is it'll be a life you cannot survive. The custom and the tradition provides those opportunity where I can associate with people. I can get fish. I can get taro. I can take a ride like this. So without those traditions and customs, for me, I won't make it. I grew up here. This is an island. I like island lives. It's something that it's more than that I like and I love, because it's something that I grew up with. It's a part of me, and I'm a part of it.
Yap, an exceptional island. Because they had nothing, the inhabitants became intrepid navigators, driven to strike out for new horizons and to bring back their precious stone discs. Since that time, things have remained unchanged, or almost. Seen from the outside, Yap still has nothing much to offer. The islander's fortune is not counted in dollars. It is priceless, as valuable as the memories it embodies. Thus, the people of Yap has forged their destiny, their identity. The ocean might have condemned these islanders to wander endlessly, without roots. But the situation is just the opposite. The Pacific is their last rampart. It allows this culture to flourish in total freedom.
Good morning, my Micronesia. It's Saturday in the Western Pacific, July 18th. We're all getting ready for our big Liberation Day party. Let me check to see if there's any ungnil any mogaten rananem kasalelia tuwo yakwe bulabanaka loha tolo falava manu lele. To right, mate. Bonjour. Kiorana for the Cook Islands. Kiora.
Bruce's voice casts a wide net all the way to the far-flung limits of Micronesia. Every day at 9 a.m. sharp, this radio buff broadcasts a bulletin intended for the most remote islands.
Okay, if there's no medical emergencies or priority traffic, I copy you, Yap. Let's take a look at your weather. We understand you want to go out and look for some turtles today on West Vayu. Yap weather for today. Variable winds, 5 to 10 knots, becoming southwest afternoon.
Here we're at the University of Guam, a territory administrated by the United States. Bruce is not just a voice. He's also a link between all the islands. A providential man, a clever handyman who over the years has single-handedly set up a communications network covering one of the vastest regions on Earth. He's the one they call when there's an emergency.
The ship was about 4 or 5 days late. Hope everything worked out. If there's anything you need, you know where to find me, over.
When Bruce landed in Guam more than 20 years ago, the outer islands were completely isolated, and this tireless traveler discovered a situation he couldn't have even imagined.
So this is my territory. So I have to go in small boats and canoes to get to these to support the 90 or so outer islands all through this area that have dispensaries, schools, and no communication, no power except for solar that we put in, and of course no airstrip, no links to the outer world except through me. So we have power, we have communication, we have tools.
The network that Bruce set up has been growing little by little. He regularly makes expeditions to install new transmitter receivers. Now he's heading out to the far-off archipelagos.
You ready to rock and roll?
Yes, I am. Are you?
Good to see you. Good to
see you again.
Got enough fuel?
Yes, I
All right, all right.
All right, let me just prepare this one quick, and then you can get off. Do you want to sit in the back, or you want to sit in the front?
So, Miwa, how's the weather?
Well, it's going to be nice and clear. There's not much turbulence or anything like that.
No typhoon?
No typhoon
all
yet.
Right. Domo arigato.
What a beautiful today.
Yes, it's
nice color for the ocean too.
like another world when we go to the outer islands.
That's right.
Leaving Guam means leaving a world of buildings, infrastructure, comfort. The ocean is the last frontier, an insurmountable obstacle for many Micronesians.
I think the Pacific, this area in the Pacific, the most remote areas on Earth, I think that these areas here are the most undiscovered and the most little known, the vast areas. I think we know more about the moon than we do about this deep ocean waters off of Micronesia. Right now, it's rainy season, so the rains can come in any time. They cover the airstrip. Then the small plane cannot land or take off. So then I have to take a canoe to another place and try to find another boat. Sometimes the boat is the only way to get back. It might take you 2 or 3 more weeks than you planned. It's the kind of life that you have to learn to be very patient. You have to be patient with the people. You have to be patient with nature. It makes you see the other side of yourself when you live in the big village or the small city, where you get all wrapped up in your day-to-day. And out here, time has a lot different meaning. The time we have out here, we just do things when we can, when the weather is good, when the surf is not too big to bring the canoe in, when the rains aren't too bad.
All right, Miwa. Thank you very much.
All right,
Have a
see you
safe
soon,
flight
okay?
home. I'll give you a call on the radio.
All right. Talk
You
to
rock,
soon.
woman. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Otherwise, I'll be on canoe.
Okay. Careful.
Yeah. I'm an old man.
From here on, Bruce has to count on himself. He'll have no more communication with the outside until he arrives at his destination. And he relishes every minute of this time cut off from the rest of the world. Each one of his expeditions takes him to new territories. Bruce is perhaps one of the last explorers. Here, for example, only 1 or 2 boats a year call in at these remote islands to buy the copra harvest.
Oh, I'm like Santa Claus when I come. I bring them stuff, and I help them fix it, and I give them training. Yes, over the years, what I've done is I've learned I need to train the local people. If I don't train the local people, I am very old. Someday I will not be able to come back here, and I need the young men and the young ladies of the village to know how to fix the antennas, fix the solar systems, and maintain the communication network.
In these far-flung archipelagos, the heat is suffocating, the humidity oppressive. With all his voyages, Bruce has come to appreciate these sudden storms and showers. Everyone is glad to have them. Fresh water is precious, for it nourishes the forests and means survival for man. Bruce melts into the vegetation.
When you're working out here, you feel like you're really doing something, not just pushing paper around or worried about the politics. Working about making money, we don't worry about making money because there is no money out here. It's only fish and coconuts. We trade for taro. Everybody is very peaceful.
In this region of the Pacific, one of the rainiest in the world, the rainstorms are always just passing.
In Micronesia, we say, if you don't like the weather, just wait 1 hour. You will have different weather. Yes, this is where you can really get in touch with your soul. A little bit of rain, pretty soon we'll be back and be in the ocean, and I can wash off, and I'm very happy when I can cleanse my soul and help the people in the outer islands. And I don't have to go to the office every day.
With the evening, a blanket of silence falls. There are no roads here, no means of transportation, no electricity, no telephone, no government even, just the traditional chiefs in each village whose authority is handed down from generation to generation.
As one person, I can feel at the end of the day that I've done quite a bit for them. So I feel like I can really make a difference. Making a difference is very important to me. I have a very short life. I need to help as many people as I can. Life is changing fast for these outer islanders. So I want them to stay here and try to preserve some of the culture, preserve some of this life. There's no place like this on the whole earth. No place where they still do celestial navigation. They watch the stars. They watch the wind and the rains. So they move around in their canoes for many years with no instruments. The only place on earth where they still practice traditional seafaring, traditional navigation.
Voyage after voyage, Bruce has had to face the jungle, the mountains. But once in a while, he gets easy trails as well. Here, the village is a 2-day walk away. Bruce is familiar with the route. He has already been there to meet the villagers and talk about the possibility of setting up a transmitter-receiver there. The villagers were notified of his arrival by the captain of a boat, stopping here with a load of material for the long-awaited antenna.
Doctor! Hey, Chief!
Oh!
How you doing, brother?
Mr. Vance, Chick.
Hey, second chicken
We've been waiting for you for quite some times. Welcome to Ulysses.
Oh, thanks. I have your gifts, huh?
Thank you very much, Mr. Best.
Oh my God, Conchita.
Oh,
How are you?
very
I have gifts for you too.
Oh, second chick. Thank you very much, Mr. Best.
All right, tell you what we're doing.
Mr. Best.
The custom in these villages is to offer a token of welcome. Today, Bruce has betel nuts, wrapped in pepper leaves from Pohnpei. The men of the village sprinkle them with powdered coral and chew them like tobacco.
Fine, and we'll be expecting you for quite some time.
How's Papa Mao?
Papa Mao is okay, but
He's getting very old.
Not getting around too much anymore with his diabetes.
That's correct.
Is he still teaching the children how to celestial navigate?
He's trying to do that, but otherwise his health is not too good.
Yeah. I know, we're all getting old. Actually, Mike and I are close to the same age, so when I first came out to Micronesia, he was a teacher over here across the lagoon. And he came to, for a while, he actually came to Guam to learn, and now he has come back and took the knowledge he learned on Guam, and he's helping his people in the outer islands. A lot of the chiefs, they're allowed to leave when they're young because they go out and they learn worldly things, but they are expected to come back when they get older, and that's when they lead. So they're not leading in a vacuum. They're leading with some knowledge about what's going on in the world. There you go. Get your foot right in there. Sorry. Don't let that thing kick back on me, Mike. You're in. Keep your foot on that. Keep your weight on it. Here we go. Okay, Mike.
There is no phone at all. This is the only ways and means of communicating with the outside world through the single sideband radio. And we need the antenna and then power by the solar system. We don't have power on the island. It is really means life in this area. It's a lot of things.
The generous sun of the Pacific will help connect people.
Got the power, we got the solar, we got the power cables, everything's ready. Let's see if we can get a hold of Guam. Let's see if this baby cranks up. Got the right mode, upper sideband. Guam, Guam, how do you copy? Over. Come on, baby.
Here's Guam, good copy.
Yes! All right.
We have been waiting for many years to have some communication. I mean, Bruce is a very helpful person to us.
Okay, we're going to be waiting for the next plane. He can finally get his news and weather in the morning now, every morning, so he knows what's going on in the rest of the world. This is his window to the global village.
The village is now quietly turning over a new page of its history. Who knows? Perhaps someday there'll be a legend about Bruce, the man who traveled over sea, rivers, and mountains to offer his help to the people of Micronesia. Here, time and space give the measure of life. This was the story of these islanders living on the edge of immensity. This was the story of these bits of land scattered here and there in the largest ocean on Earth, the Pacific. Quebec, la Belle Province, the beautiful province. History has left this region of North America a legacy, the French language. It's a land of far-off rivers and vast forests. In Quebec, The immense expanses invite men and women to plunge into this wild realm, which is open to all. But one doesn't become a woodsman or trapper overnight.
I came here about 5 years ago and I just fell in love with the region. In Montreal, I was leading the life of a young artist, a kind of wildlife. Here, I discovered a world of freedom, adventure, and beauty.
Audrey Beauchemin succumbed to the call of the wild. It fascinates her, and she wants to preserve it. In Montreal, she studied art and business. Then she decided to settle in Mingani. The last frontier for all the Quebecois, it's the most sparsely populated region on the northern coast of the Gulf of St. Lawrence.
They call Mingani the daughter of the waters. This is a land of water, if you can call it a land. It's a world in itself. You have the Gulf of St. Lawrence, all the rivers that flow into the Gulf. So, yes, you could consider Mingani an aquatic realm.
The silence of this vast, inaccessible territory is broken only by the hum of these old seaplanes. The interior of Mingani was unexplored for a long time. Audrey chose to live here to satisfy her thirst for adventure.
We're going to tackle the Magpie, one of the most beautiful rivers in the world, a magnificent treasure tucked away in the north of Mingani. We're gonna have some fun on the river with a bunch of whitewater enthusiasts. And we'd really like to spread the word about this great river.
See the clouds in the sky while a racing fades away.
Charles, Eric, and Matthew, whitewater experts, are Audrey's rafting companions. These great northern expanses at the edges of the earth have drawn them like a magnet.
It's a long way off and time runs on, the time runs on, and the night grows rough. It's a long way off and trumpets all burst, and the trumpet comes first, and the time runs on.
This place shows us the immensity of nature. It's a place where you cannot but take the time to live, to slow down, relax, observe, contemplate. That's really what we come looking for here. You can slow down the pace of life that we so often get caught up in, always trying to be on top of things, doing this, doing that, rushing about, consuming. Here, life is slower, purer. You can focus on true values, real things, take things easier overall.
Finalement. It's a long way off and time runs on, said time runs on, and the night grows rough. It's a long way off and the trumpet all burst, and the trumpet comes first, time runs on.
In a few weeks, it will be nearly impossible to organize such an operation. Winter, with its ice, wind, and cold, will grip the land. They had to transport 1 ton of equipment for this rafting expedition. The descent of the Magpie will take 3 days.
Once the boats are ready, we can enjoy the scenery, experience it, have some laughs, and a good time with the people here. We all love being on the river and the feeling we get, like we're discovering a new world because not many people come here, you know? It's the feeling of being in a new land, being the only people on Earth, if you would. And with good fellow travelers like these, it's great. So now we'll be loading the boats and we'll be off on our adventure.
This is the Magpie. The river runs down through Mingani for more than 250 kilometers, then spills into the Gulf of St. Lawrence. It's classed among the 10 most beautiful whitewater rivers in the world.
Of course, you feel a little stress when you see all the white water ahead. You have to concentrate, you want to get it right. It's a thrill. It's all about enjoyment in the end. We're out here to have fun. There's also the adrenaline. That's a healthy kick. Yeah, you go through a lot of different feelings. The Magpie is just magical from one end to the other. There are great boils.
And nice standing waves.
And nice standing waves, for sure. There's a path you have to take. You can't go upstream and skirt the problem, so to speak. As for the boils, you've got to charge through them. It's like life or a project you might have. You have to dare, face up to the challenges. That's what we're doing.
You have the river itself, plus there's everything all around. The gorge, with all the stunning beauty it offers us. We're always eager to discover something new.
Rafting down the Magpie has become a yearly ritual for this group of friends. For the past 2 years, the Magpie has been under threat by a project to build a hydroelectric dam. Audrey and her friends are among the most ardent defenders of this wild river. They're campaigning for the Magpie to be classed a biodiversity reserve so that it will continue in its present extraordinary setting.
Last year, we were at the lake. We heard a pack of wolves. We also saw a moose. We'll see what nature has in store for us this year. We're definitely in the wilderness. We don't really belong here. Nature here is unspoiled. It's her realm. The animals are at home here, so we have to respect them.
Matthew is the one who knows the ins and outs of the river the best. He's been organizing expeditions like this for 10 years and has, in fact, named most of the rapids.
You could say that the Magpie River is still hardly used. When you land on the shore, you could almost imagine that you're the very first human being to set foot in these parts since the dawn of time. Seriously, that's what it really feels like. Yeah, there's something quite extraordinary about untouched nature. This is what we're looking for when we come here, the intimate contact with nature.
The group has been trying to promote the magpie in order to better protect it. They're hoping that one day this river will become the symbol of Mingani's unspoiled wild nature, rather than just a tamed source of energy. Audrey lives in a village of 400 inhabitants close to the mouth of the river. With the association that she heads, she has gone all out to raise funds for a somewhat wild project on one of the Mingan Islands, the Île aux Perroquets, Parrot Island. The last lighthouse keeper left the island more than 40 years ago. But thanks to Audrey, the island is coming back to life after years of neglect. The restoration of the buildings on this little island began 3 years ago and has already cost $3 million. Audrey's project is to bring this remote island back to life. In a year, the island will welcome its first residents. Artists in search of inspiration or simple tourists, all are welcome, provided they're comfortable with solitude. Audrey is putting out all this effort in order to share this parcel of land with others. She has had to move mountains, search out willing hands, and convince the powers that be of the historical interest of this maritime heritage.
It's okay. I'm checking that the houses are shut up tight so nothing gets broken this winter with the strong winds. They can get up to 130 kilometers an hour. This one's okay, so we'll go check the others. We renovated the lighthouse station, decked it out in its Sunday best, and it worked out well because we celebrated the 125th anniversary of the station this year. The first lighthouse was built in 1888. What better way to restore its prestige than to rejuvenate it with a complete overhaul? There's a conservation and a long-term maintenance project, which is what we're hoping for. To bring life back to the island in order to promote the maritime heritage, which belongs to all of us. Because lighthouses were the original traffic lights that enabled us to build a country. It really concerns all of us. Every time I come here, it fires me up to keep working because we've been through trials and phases and challenges of all kinds. It's a wonderful project to see through to the end. We have 1 year left to get this island in shape. I'm confident that it'll work. But I'm certainly not all alone. I'm one element among many. But let's say that I have a certain gift of persuasion for convincing people to come on board this project and to believe in it. That's my strong point.
Here, with her commitment for the protection of the Magpie River and the revival of the Île aux Perroquets, Audrey has found an inspiration for her life.
This is a great place to wander off, to be by yourself. Solitude takes getting used to. And it's a wonderful spot for learning how to live with nature and to refocus. So yes, this place is certainly tinged with solitude.
A
friend of mine lent me this chalet. I bought a piece of land in Magpie, and I want to build a cabin for myself. Have my own refuge on the coast, a place of my very own, where I can take refuge as long as I live. Oh, you didn't sing. You let me down, Salem. I never have a day when I'm not glad to be here. The days start well, and they also finish well, of course. It's a great place to live.
Autumn, the time to recharge my batteries. I need this contact with nature. These are very special moments of life, and it's a great season for me. Every year, I look forward to this period. On a psychological level, it means getting away from the rat race. Everything becomes calm.
Michel Bellon is a trapper, a giant of a man who talks to trees and understands the language of the wild animals. The beaver trapping season has just opened. An age-old quest begins in the heart of the forests of Mauricie. Trapping is a way for Michel to reconnect with the ways of his ancestors and his childhood, which he spent with the Atikamekw Indians.
I come here once a year. It's like a trapper's pilgrimage. Like I have to go pay my respects to my old Indian guide to get his blessing for the trapping season. I spent my whole childhood out in the forest with Indians, and this is the continuity.
This Indian face, frozen in stone, was carved by time and the elements, like a reminder that these forests were once the domain of the First Nations of North America. Michel grew up in a family of loggers. In close contact with Indian families, he was initiated into the secrets of the forest. In the 1940s and 50s, 30 to 40,000 lumberjacks would head up into the woods every fall. Those men hold an important place in Quebec's history. They lived a hard life. Isolation and the bitter cold were their daily lot, with 5 to 6 meters of snow during the winter months and temperatures that often plunged to 30 below zero. Those workers had an incredible thirst for life, and they are a source of pride for an entire generation of Quebecois. For a long time, log driving was the only way to get the cut timber to the mills. At the end of the winter, when the rivers thawed, forests of logs were floated downstream. The log drivers worked in extreme conditions, doing a dangerous job. They would transport the logs, the pitoon, hundreds of kilometers through the forest. It would take 20 to 30 days to reach the shores of the St. Lawrence River. The logs supplied the paper industry. In Canada, in the 1960s, Quebec produced nearly half the country's total paper output. Michel, one of Quebec's last trappers, is a living testimony to a bygone world. Now he's heading into the heart of the forest, where he'll spend several weeks on his own. Trapping is an excuse for him to get away from the world and to go back in time to relive the life of a woodsman.
Every fall, we do an aerial survey of the trapping territory, which covers 150 square kilometers, a very large area. And it gives me a good overview of my whole territory in just a few hours. It allows me to pick out all my trapping spots. I localize all the little ponds and all the beaver dams, where I can then go trapping during my winter stay down there.
Quebec at the beginning of the 20th century was the birthplace of seaplanes in Canada. The early pilots were true adventurers. They mapped these boundless expanses. Even today, it's only from a plane that you can fully appreciate the immensity of the Canadian forest. Michel has lived several lives. He was a logger, restaurateur, owner of a hunting and fishing reserve, businessman, cabin builder, and even buffalo raiser. He knows all the secrets of the forest and is not afraid of bears or wolves. After an active professional life, he decided that every autumn he would take the trapper's trail here into his tract of nature.
I just heard a moose. It's very close by. I heard it breaking branches. Deer, moose, and bears are certainly not animals you trap. You live with them. They're all around us during the trapping season. They always take you by surprise. They appear like phantoms. They look you over, and then they move on. The wild animals come keep us company. They greet us as the masters of the premises.
At 67, Michel is keeping the promise he once made to himself, to live according to the rhythm of the forest, on his own, in a raw, rugged world resonating with silence.
Trappers and woodsmen have always used the lakes and rivers to get around. You can cover vast distances on the water. You can spot the animals on the shore. You can fish and carry 300 to 400 kilos of equipment. The canoe's a silent vehicle, easy to transport from one lake to another. The canoe has been the vehicle of the forest and of trappers for thousands of years.
A few miles from his cabin, Michel has pitched a prospector's tent. This will be his base camp for his winter beaver trapping. Back in the pioneering days of New France, trappers were known as white Indians and traded in furs. Following in their footsteps is Michel's way of paying homage to those woodsmen of the far north.
For we woodsmen, it's not a dream. It's really a whole upbringing, from childhood. It has given us this self-sufficiency, this strength to live in the forest and to adapt to our surroundings, using the means of our ancestors. It gives me an inner force. And once you've experienced it, it becomes a need.
Michel is preparing his beaver traps. He still uses pine resin to mask his human scent and the smell of iron, a technique he learned from his Indian mentors. As if he were trying to be Quebec's last trapper and carve his ancestors' lore into wood, he has become an expert in building birch bark canoes with only the most rudimentary tools.
This is a tool made by the Indians. They used it for making canoes. One of my friends on the Manuan reservation gave it to me, 40 years ago. It means a lot to me. It's like working with a memento in my hands. It's full of memories of my canoe-building apprenticeship.
The adventurers of the New World were attracted by beaver fur well before the gold rush. Those trappers set out in quest of Canada's brown gold, and furs made the fortunes of many a trapper. Tens of millions of animals were hunted down. In the 19th century, Canada's national animal was driven to the brink of extinction due to the explosion of the fur trade. At nightfall, Michel sets a few traps on the dams he spotted from the plain.
Beavers have to swim in search of food. When the water level drops, they'll notice that there's a break in their dam, and they'll come back to patch it up. And that's when you can trap the beaver.
To prepare for the winter, beavers build veritable dikes that serve both as food pantries and protection against predators. These dams made of branches can flood large areas of forest. Michel traps to maintain the ecological balance of his territory. He also sells the pelts, which at present are worth $50 apiece.
The sound of a branch breaking or a movement, nothing more natural for a moose. When a 300 to 400 kilo animal is on the move, it's natural. An animal moving doesn't make the same sound as a car. He won't get as upset by a branch breaking. For him, it's just a signal of another animal approaching. And often, it'll come out and take a look. It's a very curious animal. There's no secret about it. For someone new at this, it's a lifelong task getting to know the animals, their habits, their language, their movements. You have to live it to understand that deep sense.
Out in the woods, time passes differently than elsewhere. With age, Michel can be quite happy with just the aroma of dusk.
In a few weeks, there'll be 50 to 20 centimeters of snow on the ground. It'll be a different world, the world in winter. The animals move around a lot, and the trapper's work gets a lot harder. The lakes will be frozen over. We'll have to use snowshoes. For us, it's a season when the work is harder. We woodsmen were born with something in our genes that you just can't take away from us. Our autonomy, our force to live in the forest. This is what I come looking for every year. People often say that it's a lifestyle, but it is, in fact, our soul, our very life.
In the Carabinier family, we have Alain, a Swiss who emigrated to Canada 30 years ago, and his son, Antoine. They are just two of the members of a surprising family tribe, the Cirque Alphonse.
Well, sometimes you have to take a risk. The circus is the circus. It's not like the movies. No, here we practice and practice, and eventually it works. We'll get it.
You can never give up. Practice makes perfect. Sometimes it just takes longer than others.
The Cirque Alphonse is the brainchild of Antoine Carabinier. Timber, their latest show, is inspired by the legends and lore of the lumberjacks and logging camps.
We wanted to stay close to our roots. We were born here in this magnificent spot. And there's also the music. We grew up with it. Our friends played traditional music. We wanted to stay close to all that, close to Quebec, close to our Quebecois roots, which are being forgotten a bit because there aren't many documents that have survived. It's a very oral culture. We wanted to do a show that would evoke Quebec's past, the lumberjacks, the evenings around the fire, everything about those old days.
Timber resonates through all the forests of Quebec. Timber, the cry of the lumberjack just as the tree is falling. The Cirque Alphonse was born in one of these cabins during the dead of winter. Alain, his daughter Julie, Antoine, and Joe portray the life of toil and isolation of thousands of men and women in the logging camps.
We live in Lanaudière. They do a lot of music, traditional music here. We wanted to use that art along with the circus. Well, now in the circus show they wanted to do, they said they wanted songs about the life in the old lumber camps. Well, he told me, try to find people to tell you how things were back then. So I traveled far and wide to meet the old-timers who had actually worked in the lumber camps.
Roger Baudouin, a veteran of the old Canadian logging days, may be 97, but he still hasn't lost his touch. He is still the best at sharpening godon d'art, the long two-handed saws that are just as much of a legend as the lumberjack's red-checked shirt.
Hello, Mr. Baudouin. How are you?
Fit as a fiddle.
Long time no see, huh? Watch your hands there.
The godon d'art have long been replaced by mechanical saws. But the acrobats of Cirque Alphonse have found other uses for these razor-edged blades than just cutting wood.
We cut them during the show to prove that they're sharp. Then, since the saws are long and flexible, we bend them around and jump through them instead of using cardboard hoops.
I just saw something I thought I would never see in my life. The guy is sitting on the floor, and he takes the saw and he swings it around like this. And these other guys jump over it in both directions, doing pirouettes and twists and flips. They're nuts. They must have a death wish. It's beyond me.
We wanted the show to be connected with the local and regional roots. They used to do a lot of logging here back then. In the winter, they'd cut. Then in the spring, they'd float the logs down the rivers. They call that la drave in French, the log drive. They'd walk right out on the logs when they had to break up a log jam. Then it would all float downriver to the mill to make paper. They call that la pitoune.
It was a quirk of fate that led Alain to show business. In 1968, he left Switzerland in a little Citroën 2 chevaux and headed for Kathmandu. That voyage lasted 10 years. Then he went on to visit Australia, Japan, Alaska, and South America. In Ecuador, he met Louise, a backpacker from Quebec. Together, they led a bohemian life made up of freedom and shared dreams. A good many years later, they were bitten by the performance bug.
My fire's going to take. What's the matter, Louise? So what about this tour? Where are you taking us?
We are leaving soon. We leave the 28th.
We're not going to come back with all the gear. Go through customs twice?
No, we'll stay on the road. Then we'll have ourselves a little vacation.
In a few days, the Cirque Alphonse will leave for a 4-month tour.
I never could have imagined that one day I'd be doing this. Well, it's because Antoine went to circus school, and for my 60th birthday, he wanted to do a show because he knows that I like performing, and it turned out pretty well. Then he said, let's do another one, but more serious. They created Timber. Everyone chipped in with their ideas, and this is what we came up with. Now we're touring the world with it.
The Carabinier family relates the myth of the pioneers and adventurers of the far north. Their show, Timber, evokes in a light comic vein the isolation of those lumberjacks, the rugged job they had to do in their everyday life deep in the forests without the slightest comforts. Antoine and Joe are the acrobats of the troupe. The Cirque Alphonse takes a fresh look at the language of the forest and twists the conventions of circus shows. Before a long tour in the USA, Europe, and Australia, Antoine has gathered the extended Cirque Alphonse family. Brother and sister, parents, grandparents, and friends. This whole group lives to the rhythm of the circus arts.
We really have to make a connection with everybody. It's a big part of all this, even with friends in the show, but who aren't part of our family. Everybody has to connect with everybody else. It's really a force that we have. Over the years, we've gotten to know each other on stage and touring together, which is quite another story. Our families don't usually come with us on tour. It's a unique experience, unique and wonderful. It's not just doing the shows, it's also everyday life. It's above all the camaraderie. That's the beauty of it.
Until they open their new show, Barbu, loosely translated as bearded, the Cirque Alphonse will continue to perform their poetic and humorous portrait of the great legend of the Quebecois lumberjacks.